Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. So, guys, I've been drawn to Mount Shasta for a very, very long time and never been there yet. Was going to go there a couple of times and things didn't work out. But yet, always felt like there would be a time when I would definitely be pulled to go. There are so many legends of these beings that are there, and so many people have encountered all sorts of different beings there. And here you're looking at the remnants of the Lemurian civilization, subterranean world inside the mountain of Mount Shasta. So there are legends that when Lemuria sank, some of its survivors went to Mount Shasta and went inside the mountain. Excuse me there. And they have been there ever since. And so we also see there's legends of Agartha and Shambhala around the world. So, there's all these myths and legends of these cultures that are very advanced and living very, very peaceful for the most part deep inside the earth. And then, of course, we have the legends of the Anunnaki, the ant people taking the Hopi down inside the earth, and then once the cataclysms were over on the surface, they were brought back up, and that literally means like ant being or ant friend. And they looked like ants, but what we're talking about here are definitely what we would consider the Nordic type of alien, the Pleiadian type of alien. Well, we say alien, but what really is alien when we get down to it? Are we all perhaps not alien to this planet? Perhaps. There's so many legends and myths about all this. And so Mount Shasta is one of those places like Sedona that's a vortex area. Although a little different, because over here at Mount Shasta, people have met Saint Germain. At least they claim to have met Saint Germain many, many times, spanning like 100 years. And actually, there's been some amazingly powerful books written after the fact, after these meetings. Other people have seen these Lemurian beings as well. And then also there have been tons of reports of UFOs and Bigfoot. So you have all these things, even some reports of reptilian beings in the area as well. One thing we could say for sure, this is most definitely a powerful portal area. It is for sure one of the power places on the planet. It's very sacred, and it has this air of sacredness to it. And we see these crazy lenticular clouds, and, are they covering motherships? That's a good question. I mean, because they happen there all the time. And, so many people have seen UFOs and various spiritual, perhaps, beings up in the sky. It's just kind of a common occurrence for people that go there. It's one of those places that changes you when you go there. It changes you. It changes your consciousness, changes your perception. It's very powerful. As we look at a map showing perhaps what was the continent of Mu or Lemuria, as we see, expansive, coming over and incorporating some of the western U.S. And, as I've said to you guys, I am hit strongly in Arizona and Nevada and in California as well, from what I've seen, with the feeling like there was a very high civilization, and I'm looking at ruins and perhaps looking at giant bodies at times as well. And so Hawaii is part of it. And Hawaii, so many people have said it just has this beauty to them. I know quite a few friends that lived on Hawaii and just thought it was uniquely special with a certain vibration all its own. And here we see Australia is included, as is New Zealand and parts of Indonesia. And so will it rise again? Well, if we look at some of the prophecies, parts of it are supposed to rise again. But this was supposed to be a relatively peaceful civilization, more peaceful than what we had in the Atlantic with Atlantis. And again, it sank to the bottom of the sea. And there are roads that are like 7 to 10,000 feet under the ocean. And even some have seen what they thought are footsteps on the bottom of the ocean floor in rock. So this is Adama, supposedly the leader of Telos, which is that ancient Lemurian city under Mount Shasta. And again, he looks like a typical Nordic, what we've come to call the Nordics, the Nords, or also what we see with when people say the Pleiadians. Now, there's different types of Pleiadians too. Some have just pure energy bodies. There is some thought that really these beings are actually 4 or 5D and not really 3D, and that's why sometimes people can see them, or they could change their vibration so that they can appear to certain people that they want to. And they tend to have a look like this. And so, you know, this is one of those subjects that I have never really talked to Cindy much about, just simply saying we have to go to Shasta at some time. I feel like I'm drawn to it, and she, you know, agrees that it sounds very, very interesting. And so the reason why we're making this video today is because she had very interesting dreams / visions last night, and I did too all night. The last 2 nights I've had what I know are messages. You know, these are not typical dreams. And again, waking up, I think last night it was probably about 3 a.m. again, and it's when I go back. You know, I had some dreams before, but then when I go back to, you know, to sleep after that, and you're in that in and out state, you know, and you get these great downloads, you get these great messages that come through. Well, Cindy had them all night long, and so she's going to share with us what she experienced.
Well, we were shown inside of Mount Shasta, and they had us come in from the top somehow. Magically, we go in through the top, and on the inside, they have these like control panels. So, and you can actually, there's big roads in there. You can drive, like it's sort of like a big winding type thing. And every so often you see these big control panels, and they were explaining to me how they control certain things from these panels inside of Mount Shasta. And I believe I was visited by, go back that one being him, because it was a blonde being with a blue suit, like a jumpsuit.
More like a jumpsuit. And how tall was he?
He was taller than me. He was decent sized guy. You know, I had to look up at him, and he was showing me around and explaining to me how things are controlled through Mount Shasta. And then I kept revisiting that all night long, and going to different control areas with different control boards. And, you know, in a way, I have this, it felt like a thing from the 1980s where you see all these different control things and buttons and stuff like that. It was sort of kind of like that. But
did you see people working at these controls? There
were people working. They were doing their thing, and you know, the dream, it gets a little bit fuzzy, but the main thing is there's these control boards, and they work inside of Mount Shasta, and they control like many areas. I would venture to say even the whole planet from there. It was interesting.
Wow, that's pretty curious. And what was the vibe that you got from him? What did it feel like? What were you experiencing?
I felt safe, but it also felt powerful. Like I was being shown something significant, and you know, I guess to tell you and for you to share that, I felt very safe inside of this. I guess inside of Mount Shasta, and he was just with me the entire time, all night long. It was beautiful, really.
Did you see, now you said like roads, were there vehicles of sorts going on the roads, and what did they look like?
You know, in my dream, it was like our truck could drive on the road in the dream. And that sounds a little archaic. You'd think that maybe there's spaceships or something, but no, just like vehicles like we drive, like your truck. And every so often you'd come across a control area, and that would control a certain aspect of our planet.
Interesting. Did you see any other beings, or were they all kind of looking like the Nordic types that you saw?
I, there were like different sizes, different I guess genders. I got different flavors of different beings. Little ones, like little creatures. There were like families. So like at one of these control board areas, there would be like a family, but nobody really quite looked the same. Like there were some short ones, there were some tall ones. Everybody worked together. Harmonious is the vibe. If I had to.
All humanoid though, or anything that we might call like the ant people of the Hopi, like Anunnakis, or any greys, or any other type of beings that you remember, or you remember just basically all humanoid.
All humanoid, all humanoid. To me, there was, I, I'd have to like sit down and really remember, but this is just off the top of my head. It was like little families of beings. You know, it was super interesting, and I'm just going back over it now in my head, trying to refine the memories of what they showed me. But it really felt like that they do want us to maybe come out there. I don't know if anything's going to happen. It felt more like they wanted us to come out for some kind of an activation type thing.
Yeah, many people have felt that they've gone to Shasta and then been changed, had different type of activations, you know, gained spiritual energy and knowledge, and it really has changed so many people. If you guys are familiar with Godfrey Ray King, he wrote a series of books that were, you know, very, very inspiring after he saw Saint Germain. And then there's Peter Mount Shasta is how he's known, and he is still a resident there as well. And he had his encounter with Saint Germain, who again, Saint Germain can change forms according to what people have seen. He's appeared to some in more modern times as kind of like a hippie, you know, just like a kind of like a flower child out there hiking in the woods. But then they notice there's something different about him. So again, perhaps this is truly a being that is a higher dimensional being that can shift his vibrational frequency downwards. You know, he's what is known as a ascended master. And then these Lemurians as well. Everybody appears to view them as benevolent beings in a benevolent light. Would you say that's the case?
Extremely benevolent. Yeah, the whole theme, if I had to put one vocabulary word to it, was harmonious. Everything was in harmony. Everything worked to get together for a bigger purpose.
So do you think, because there is the thought that the first beings that we are going to be brought in contact with when we are getting disclosure is going to be the inner earth people, the inner earth civilizations, which, you know, Telos is supposedly right there at the heart of Mount Shasta, and then there's Shambhala and Agartha. You know, there's so many of these legends of these inner earth civilizations that you could reach from inside the poles. Going up to, you know, the Arctic pole, there's supposed to be some sort of way in, and then the same thing in Antarctica, which, you know, obviously we've heard so much about that. And then in the Himalayas, you know, as well, Shambhala, you know, this amazing city. And, you know, there is the line of thought, too, that some of the sacred sites that we have on the planet, perhaps, are basically places that were recognized by the lost civilizations as being sacred, ley lines, power centers, you know, perhaps chakra points of the planet themselves. And that's why we have, you know, so many of these monolithic, you know, buildings and leftover remnants at different points. And it was really put there perhaps by these civilizations. And of course the Atlantean and the Lemurian are the two major ones that we hear of, with the Lemurian being far older, and also a society that lived more in harmony with the earth as opposed to the Atlantean, which perhaps we are still dominated by leftover Atlanteans right now, because they had their warlike tendency. Obviously, as you know, Atlantis was destroyed, according to sources, you know, as much from its disharmony and advanced science in warlike ways as anything. But what was your take on all that? I mean, what else did you get from them? What else did you see? And when you said he was talking to you, what was it he was really saying? You said that he wants us to go forward with, sharing this information.
Yeah, yeah. I think the only reason that I would be shown this is to share the information that, and I don't like the word control, but that seemed to be what it was. Like, there's ways that and frequencies they can send out to us through these control panels. It was just really interesting, and the harmonious thing is really what I get from it, like everybody working together for a greater good. And I thought that was really beautiful. And the biggest thing I felt around him was safe. I just felt safe, which was really nice,
Very safe and secure. Now, you said that they dressed in stuff more like what we're looking at right now.
Yeah, in a jumpsuit like that. And then there was another one that showed himself to me. He was darker skin and he had blonde hair, and he also wore a jumpsuit. So I don't know if has something to do with like the atmosphere changing. Maybe when they come to visit us, they have to wear that jumpsuit or something.
Do you remember the color of his eyes?
I'm thinking blue.
But you said darker skin, like he was really tan?
Yeah, well, he could have been African, Native American. I'm not sure. Just darker skin. He seemed to have blue eyes and blonde hair, and they were just very peaceful people, extremely peaceful people.
Interesting. Did you see anything growing in there? Like, did you remember seeing any plants or any crops or any food or anything along those lines?
No. All I was shown was the work area, which was curious, and it, like, if I had to feel like I was only being shown a sliver of what was there. Why they wanted me to see the work areas and the control areas is beyond me, but that seemed to be the main thing. And then harmony, peacefulness is what they were conveying to me.
It hits me like you're talking about control. Do you think that they are trying to counteract what is being done by maybe the negative forces on Earth from within there?
That makes sense to me. Yeah, that makes total sense to me. Like, if they send out certain frequencies and help people get beyond their issues, from in there, because everything is about sound and vibration and frequency. And if you can change your vibration, then you have a whole different mindset. You see things completely different, and maybe they're using that to help elevate us in a way.
Yeah, I was going to say, are they trying to help activate some people and help people on the ascension process, where we know that the powers that be, the darker forces, are doing their best to deactivate pineal glands and to lower vibrations as much as possible. So perhaps they are trying to counteract that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because, even when I use these tuning forks, I always have my tuning forks. If I'm in a cranky mood or something and I use the tuning forks on myself, it helps remove that standing wave of information that's bogging me down.
Yeah, and whether it's you using the tuning forks or we're doing our mantras together in meditation, doing a technique like pore breathing, or we're doing a ritual like a banishing ritual, or standing meditation, all those things, it's amazing how you can go from, feeling in perhaps not the highest state to all of a sudden feeling just blissfully vibrating on such a high level. You could change our state so quickly.
We can, and I've had that happen to me too, where I'm just in a really horrible place, and then suddenly, like, my heart chakra will just shoot off, and then I'm in complete bliss, and there's absolutely nothing on this planet can disturb me.
Interesting too, and we don't know the age of these particular glyphs that are on rocks over in the Shasta area, but obviously this one looks a lot like an Ankh, maybe not perfectly straight Ankh, And then we could take these in different ways. This looks like a Reiki symbol called Raku. And then this looks very much like a symbol that's used in the lesser banishing ritual of the hexagram, which is, again, it's curious to see these type of things there. It's definitely a very interesting place. And if you guys are curious, there's quite a bit of info that you could find, and most of it is channeled. Some people don't like channeling, but really, when you look at all the great works, they're all channeled. That's what they are, and a lot of the fundamentalist point of view people view that only certain people were allowed to channel only a certain time frame. But, that's not the case. It really is not the case. And so Cindy doesn't know any of this, honestly. I never got to talk to her about it, and she never even looked into it. So it's curious because it's not the first time that's happened with her. She's a great channel. She's really, really gifted, and I think that that's part of why we have been brought together, because I think together we could do a lot more good than we can separately. So I do think that there's forces that brought us together to work, honestly. And then, the blessing is the relationship that we get together out of it. But it is all about working and doing our job here. And we have both felt that, like, from the beginning. I've shared with you guys, too, it's just the feeling that when we first met in person, it was as if there were higher forces on a very, very high plane that were kind of almost sewing us together, like attaching us at the hip, like you guys got work to do here. And it did feel like they were blessing us. The energy coming down through the crown chakra was just incredible. And both of us experienced it at the same time. So as we see here, and this is out of telosusa.com, Adama is the high priest, the spiritual leader of the sacred Lemurian city of light called Telos beneath Mount Shasta. He is head of the Lemurian Council of Light in Telos, an ambassador and diplomat for galactic contacts with our star brothers and sisters on behalf of humanity within and on the surface of the globe. Adama, along with his Lemurian team, are also in charge of the creation and maintenance of a very important crystalline grid around the planet. He is working with many members of various galactic and interplanetary beings on this important project. He is a Blu-ray Ascended Master of Universal Level and Master of Love and Compassion, assisting humanity and the planet with the Ascension Project. Telos has now become the main headquarters for Ascension on the planet, and Adama is one of the main leaders, along with the planetary Christ, Lord Maitreya, Lord Sananda, Lord Buddha, Sanat Kumara, and so many others. So he embodies the heart of Lemuria, which is nothing less than the heart of love and compassion, and the heart of the Divine Mother, and the return of Christ consciousness on the planet with all its wondrous magnificence. Adama's time to be known and heard on the surface of the planet has now come. His spiritual presence among us and the spiritual presence of our former Lemurian family is a great blessing for us all and for the planet. So it goes on to say, let's open our hearts to him and members of our Lemurian family who are assisting us in our evolutionary pathway, waiting to reconnect with us in a more physical manner in the years to come. So does that make sense to you?
It does make total sense, but no, I didn't know any of this, none of it.
But now it makes complete sense.
Complete sense. It paints a whole, it helps me expand the visions and pictures of what I dreamt about. It helps me get into the cracks and crevices of the dream, because a lot of times when I have visions or dreams, they're just flashing pictures. But the one constant was having him next to me, and I just felt so safe and secure. Like there were no problems at all, and everything was going to be taken care of. And and then they wanted to show me the control boards, which was really curious. So I'll have to, do a little more meditating on that dream, because, this is just my first time going over it now. And I can go back and remember more.
So, yeah, I mean, I've felt the pull, and, I wanted to get up there before it got too cold, and I know it's getting cold now. But perhaps we should go there sooner than later and see what we feel. what I had also experienced going back to 2015 was a series of dreams that were kind of similar, to what you're describing. I didn't see him, but I saw beings that were dressed just like that, and they were typical kind of Nordic looking, and I know that they were under the surface, and they came in consistently in meditation as well and made contact, and I was having some really positive, beautiful experiences at the time with different orbs of light, and even woke up several times to all sorts of beings in the room and golden light, and I could sense them. It was really positive. It was really beautiful. So, as we were saying before, there are positive beings out there now that are asserting themselves a little bit more, as the darker ones are doing the same. So most definitely there's a battle underway, and
All the time. My pendulum swings from one way to the other all the time, but I'm learning how to, you just really have to squash them. You have to find a way to remove the dark energies and ignore them, do what it takes.
right, because they try to get us back into that fear mode, and you might sense them. You might sense that you're being attacked by them, and it's important to call on your connection to source, develop your connection to your higher self, recognize the power that you have within yourself, and recognize that we do have family and friends in many different levels that are working with us in this.
We do. It's really important. Self-empowerment, take control of your emotions. And, there's a lot of different ways to do that. And with me, it has been the meditation and the mantras and the learning Reiki and the tuning forks. Really, they help a whole lot. But all of it together, it's about changing the information around you.
Most definitely. So we wanted to share that with you guys. I look forward to your comments. See if you have had experiences like this as well. I want to thank everyone for your support over on Patreon. We're at 89 Patreons right now. We wanted to hit 100 by the end of the month. And thank you for keeping the channel going, as, obviously the censorship issues are hitting so many channels. I was listening to WSO last night. He's going through the same things. All of us are. And so, we try to develop new venues and new ways of staying afloat and keeping the message going out. And also thank you for your support on Ko-Fi, as we have people that will make a one-time donation to help the channel over there as well. And make sure you're subscribed to both channels, EEARTS as well as Evolutionary Energy Arts, and make sure that the bell is clicked on both of them, because otherwise you might not get any notifications. So my friends, as always, may you be blessed with abundant peace, light, and love and harmony. May your path always be a smooth one going straight up. God bless, and namaste.
Namaste.